In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make this fun and wonderful pouch wallet, whatever you want to use it for, crocheted frog. Now, if you're going to use it as a wallet, you can attach a keychain to the end of the tongue, and that makes it a handy place to carry your keys. Or you can just have the tongue there by itself as a funny and cute little addition to your frog, or you cannot have it there at all. All things are possible with this fun and unique little project. Let me give a warm welcome to all my Weaving Wyrd siblings, weirdlings, and just fun people. For those of you who aren't in the know, my name is Sig. I'm a retired tattoo artist turned active fiber artist and crocheter. And here on my channel, you and I get to create a little magic with every knot. So don't forget to hit the subscribe and like buttons. This doesn't cost you anything, but it does help me provide you with regular tutorials featuring original designs such as this frog wallet, classic patterns, and lacy motifs. I'm always interested in your feedback, so feel free to leave your comments and questions below. Now let's get started. So for this project, you're going to want a variety of yarns. You're going to want to make sure that they're all pretty much the same weight. And in my case, they're all pretty much a similar type of yarn. They're basically, all of them are a semi-synthetic variations of cotton and bamboo. So for example, this color right here, this particular colorway of this lighter green is by Hooks and Needles. It's called Bamboo Touch, and it's 100% bamboo viscose. Also, this particular yarn right here is from Yarn Lane. This is their Capri Tinsel, and it's 100% tinsel. This one right here is K&C. It's from their Movement line of yarn, and this is Dusty Raspberry. And this particular yarn right here is 48% cotton and 52% viscose. And then also here, the white and the orange that I'm going to be using in this particular project. These ones are Lion Brand's True Boo. And basically, they're 100% rayon from bamboo. Next, for this project, you're going to want a yarn needle. You're going to want a set of eyes that are going to be between 20 and 30 millimeters. So any size eye between 20 and 30 millimeters is going to be perfect for this project. I happen to be using these flat back eye pieces, but you can use safety eyes. You can use a regular black button for an eye. So the eyes are really going to be up to you how you do that. You could even probably crochet your own eyes if you wanted to. Also, you're going to want an 8-inch zipper. You're going to want a couple of stitch markers. You're going to want a decent craft glue. And then also you're definitely going to need some stuffing. Not a lot of stuffing, but you've got a little bit of stuffing that you're going to need for this project. Also, of course, you're going to need a pair of scissors. And then for this particular project, I am using a size E or 4 hook, otherwise known as a 3.5 millimeter. Now, depending on the yarn you choose to use, you may need to do a different size hook, but this is a size of hook I am using with the yarns that I am using for this project today. Last but not least, options. So you may find that you need some straight pins. You may find them useful for helping you pin your zipper into place while you sew it on, and then other things into place as well. I have as an option here a key ring. So as you saw in my original frogs, I have the key ring wrapped around their tongue. And so that's just an added feature to your pouch. That's an option. And then last but not least, which sort of is an option and isn't an option, are going to be some different threads, some matching threads, and a sewing needle. So for example, when it comes to sewing the zipper into place, you are going to want a matching thread along with a sewing needle. Otherwise, everything else is an option. depending on whether you're using a liner or not in your piece. Now, to begin this, I'm going to start with my main color, and my main color for this particular frog is going to be green. And I'm going to begin by chaining 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then next, I'm going to place a single crochet into the second stitch from the hook. And I'm also going to work this piece in a yarn under technique. So for my single crochets, basically I'm working yarn under, which means I'm going to work my yarn under. It's going to make my stitch a little tighter. And this is what I like to do with anything like an amigurumi or something of a similar sort. So I've got my first single crochet, and then I'm going to single crochet a single crochet in the next 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Next, in my next, or rather last chain, in the length of these chains, I'm going to place 3 single crochets. So we got 1, 2, and 3. And then on the back side of the single crochets we just did, I'm going to do a single crochet 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. Which brings us right back here to this second single chain that we started off in. And in that chain, I'm going to do 2 more single crochets. So 1 and 2 into the same stitch. That brings us right back around to the very beginning. Now for this piece, I am not going to join. I'm just going to continue to work in basically a spiral. So now that I've completed round 1, I have 12 stitches. I'm going to start round 2. And for this piece, I'm working in a spiral, so there won't be any joining. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place an increase into that very first stitch of round 1. So that'll be 1 and then 2 right there in that same stitch. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to place my stitch marker right into the first stitch of round 2, or that first single crochet rather. Next, I'm going to single crochet 3. So 1, 2, and 3. Then I'm going to make an increase. So 1 and 2 into that same stitch. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to make a single crochet. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to do an increase. So 1, 2 in the same stitch. And then I'm going to place a single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, and 3. Next, I'm going to place an increase in the next stitch. And then in my last stitch of round 2, I'm going to place a single crochet. And that will leave me with a total of 16 stitches for round 2. Now for round 3, I'm going to start off by making a single crochet. And I'm going to place my stitch marker back. Into the first stitch of round 3. And then I'm going to make an increase in the next stitch. And then I'm going to single crochet 4. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to place an increase. And then next, I'm going to single crochet in the next 2 stitches, so 1 and 2. And then in the next stitch after that, I'm going to make an increase. Now I'm going to single crochet 4, so 1, 2, 3, and 4. Next stitch is going to be an increase, 1 and 2, and then a single crochet in the last stitch of the round. So for the end of round 3, you'll have 20 stitches. Now for round 4, I'm going to start with a single crochet, and I'm going to replace my stitch marker. And then in the next stitch, I'm going to do another single crochet. Now in the stitch after that, I'm going to make an increase. Next, I'm going to single crochet 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to do an increase in the next stitch. And then I'm going to make 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. And then in the stitch after that, I'm going to increase. So 1 and 2. And then I'm going to single crochet 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Next stitch is going to be an increase. And then a single crochet in my very last stitch. So that's the completion of round 4. And for round 4, you should have 24 stitches. So now I'm going to begin round 5. And for round 5, I want to begin with my first stitch being an increase. So 1 and 2 in that same stitch. I'm going to put my stitch marker into the first single crochet of that increase. And then the next stitch is going to be a single crochet. And then the stitch after that is going to be an increase. Next, I'm going to single crochet 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to make an increase. Next stitch, I'm going to make a single crochet. And then the stitch after that, I'm going to make an increase. And then the stitch after that is going to be a single crochet. Next, I'm going to make an increase. Then I'm going to single crochet 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Next, I'm going to make an increase. And then I'm going to single crochet. After that, I'm going to make an increase. And then my last stitch for round 5 is going to be a single crochet. Now for round 5, I want 31 stitches total. Now going forward, for rounds 6 through 8, I'm simply going to single crochet in each one of the 30 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that for the next 3 rounds, and I will meet you right back here with that. Now for round 9. And for round 9, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start with a single crochet. And then I'm going to replace my stitch marker. And then I'm going to repeat this next pattern 15 times. And the pattern comprises of 1 increase and 1 single crochet. So increase and then a single crochet. Increase and then a single crochet. So I've already repeated that pattern twice. I will repeat that pattern 13 more times. It will complete my round with a total of 46 stitches. Now moving on to round 10. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to begin by placing an increase into this next stitch. And I am going to replace my stitch marker right there at that first single crochet of the increase. And then next, I'm going to repeat this following pattern 15 times. And the pattern is going to be an increase plus a single crochet 2 times. So this is the first of the pattern. So that'll be my increase. And then my single crochet once and my single crochet twice. I've done that once. Now I'm going to repeat that 14 more times. So that's going to be my increase. And then my single crochet. And another single crochet. So now I need to repeat that 13 more times. And when I've completed round 10, I will have ended with a count of 62 stitches. So with the completion of round 10 and 62 stitches in my round, I'm going to move on to rounds 11 through 13. And for 11s through 13, I'm going to simply single crochet each stitch. So each round is going to also end in 62 stitches. So I'm going to begin round 11 and replace my stitch marker. And then when I've completed rounds 11, 12, and 13, I will meet you right back here. So when you've completed round 13, you should have something that looks like this. Now we're going to move on to round 14. And for round 14, I'm going to begin with an increase. Replace my stitch marker at that first single crochet of the increase. And then the next pattern is what I'm going to follow 15 times. So the pattern goes 1 increase, single crochet 3 times. Okay, so I'm going to make my increase. And then I'm going to single crochet once, twice, and then a 3rd time. And now I'm going to repeat this pattern 14 more times. An increase, and then a single crochet 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. So now I'm going to repeat this pattern 13 more times. And when you've completed round 14, you will have 79 stitches to your round. Now we're going to move on to rounds 15 and 16. And for rounds 15 and 16, we're simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So again, for those 2 rounds, I'll just simply end with 79 stitches as well. So then I will continue on to rounds 15 and 16, and I will meet you back here for rounds 17. So now that I've completed round 16, I'm going to move on to round 17. And 17 is going to be the last round for the top part of the body of our frog. And this is where things, start getting a little less intuitive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And then I'm going to single crochet 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come here and I'm going to place the stitch marker right there in that last stitch. Right here, because I don't want to lose the stitch, so you might want to just wrap it in there pretty good. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count 30 stitches. So going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. And then in that 30th stitch, from the last stitch that we made, so basically I'm skipping 30 stitches, and then I'm going to place my other stitch marker. And so now what that does is that gives me the starting of where my frog's mouth is going to be. And you can see if I take the zipper and I wrap the zipper around, you can kind of now get an idea as to where that zipper is going to sit. Now next, I cut myself a very long tail, probably approximately, I don't know, I'd say maybe 2 or 3 feet long. I don't know exactly how much of this I'm going to need, but I'm going to need a little bit left when it comes time to attach the top part of my frog to the belly side of my frog. And so what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to take a stitch marker and I'm going to just kind of stitch marker this in place so that it doesn't get in the way while I move on to the next step. And I'm going to simply set this piece aside. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make 2 of the eye sockets. And how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to chain 13. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then I'm going to make a ring. So I'm going to slip stitch into the very first chain that I made. And I'm going to chain 1. And then what I'm going to do is in the back bump of that chain, I am going to single crochet. And I'm going to single crochet in the back bump of the next 12 chains. So now for those of you who don't know what I mean when I say back bump, let me show you. So you have your chain. Let me see if I can get a better view of this for you. So you have your standard chain right here, right? This is going to be basically your front loop, your back loop. And when you turn your chain over, you see kind of this bit of yarn that kind of humps over your chain at each link. That's your back bump.
And that is what I am working my single crochet into. Now that I've made it all the way around, I'm simply going to slip stitch into the very first single crochet that I made. Okay. And I'm going to cut a nice long tail because this is what I'm going to use for sewing. And so this is kind of basically like what you should have. And I'm going to make 2 of these. So I have the 1 and then I have the 2. I'm going to set these aside and we're going to start on the next piece. For the next step, I'm going to make the 4 legs of the frog, the front legs. And so again, I'm going to want 2 of those. And I'm going to begin with an adjustable ring. And then I'm going to single crochet 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Still working in a spiral. I'm going to do my second round with increases. So my first round I finished with 6 stitches, and then my second round I will do 6 increases. And so for round 2, I will complete round 2 with 12 stitches. So that's 1, 2. Next increase. So next for round 3, I'm going to follow this pattern 6 times. The pattern is going to be a single crochet and then an increase. And I'm going to repeat that 6 times for a total of 18 stitches for round 3. So we got a single crochet, and then in the next stitch, I'm going to do an increase. And that's 1, so I'm going to repeat that pattern 5 more times. Next, I'm going to move on to rounds 4 and 5. So rounds 4 and 5, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So let me go ahead and mark that first stitch of round 4. And so when I finish round 4, I'm going to have 18 stitches. And when I finish round 5, I'm also going to have 18 stitches. So I'll go ahead and do those 2 rounds, and then I'll meet you back here for round 6. So next we're ready for round 6. And for round 6, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to decrease once. Bring my stitch marker back into that. I'm going to decrease again. And then I'm going to decrease one more time. And then next I'm going to single crochet in the next 12 stitches. And that'll leave me with a round, or rather an end count of 15 for round 6. And when I've completed round 6, I have something that looks like this, and you should too. So next for rounds 7 through 9, so the next 3 rounds, I'm simply going to single crochet in each stitch. So each round of 7, 8, and 9, I will end with a count of 15 stitches. And then I'll fasten off and I'll leave a nice long tail. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to complete those last 3 rounds, and I will meet you right back here. Now, once you've finished all 9 rounds, you should have something that looks like this, and you're going to want to make 2 of them. So don't forget to leave yourself a tail for sewing, a decent length of tail, maybe 12 inches or so. I'm going to set these aside. Next, we're going to move on to the back legs. And for the back legs, we're also going to make 2. And we're also going to start with an adjustable ring. And in that adjustable ring, I'm going to single crochet 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I'm going to pull tight. And then, of course, as usual, I'm going to continue to work in a spiral. And then for round 2, I'm going to do an increase in each of the 6 stitches. So round 2 will have a total of 12 stitches. Now that round 2 is completed, I'm going to move on to round 3. And for round 3, I'm going to follow this pattern of a single crochet and then an increase. And that particular pattern I'm going to do 6 times. And so that will leave me with a count or an end count of 18 stitches for round 3. So I begin with a single crochet and then an increase. I just go ahead and put my stitch marker at that single crochet that I started with. And then I'm going to repeat that 5 more times. Single crochet and then an increase. I'm going to continue just like that 4 more times, and I will meet you back here for rounds 4. Now for rounds 4 through rounds 11, I am going to make a single crochet in each stitch. So each round is going to end with a total of 18 stitches. So for the next 7 rounds, I'm going to simply continue to single crochet. And when I've completed the 11th round, I will meet you back here for round 12. Now, once I've finished the first 11 rounds, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start round 12. Now, for round 12, I'm going to do some decreases, but the pattern that I'm going to do is going to be a decrease, then a single crochet. And I'm going to repeat that pattern 6 times. So we have my first decrease and then a single crochet. And go ahead and put my stitch marker right back here into that first decrease. And so I've done that once. Now I'm going to repeat that pattern 5 more times. So now I have completed round 12 and I have 12 stitches. Next, I'm going to move on to round 13. And for rounds 13 through 24, I'm going to simply single crochet. And each one of those rounds is going to end with a total count of 12. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start my first single crochet for round 13. I'm going to replace my stitch marker. And then I'm going to continue. So rounds 13 through 24, simply single crochet. And I will meet you back here when I have completed round 24. Now that I've completed all 24 rounds, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to leave myself a nice tail, about 12 inches, and I'm going to go ahead and cut that off. And I'm just going to pull my yarn through and make sure I have 2 pieces for the back legs. Next, we need to make the feet, or to be more specific, the toes. You're going to want to make 4 of these. And the way I make these is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to chain 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Then I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then I'm going to single crochet again in the next chain. Now in the chain after that, I'm going to make a half double crochet. And then I'm going to make another half double crochet in the chain after that. And then in my last chain, I'm going to make a double crochet. And that's basically the first toe. And then I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to chain 6 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as before, I'm going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. And then I'm going to single crochet in the next chain. And then I'm going to make my half double crochet once, and then a half double crochet again in the next chain. And then my last chain, I'm going to make a double crochet. I'm going to repeat that 2 more times. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then a single crochet, and a single crochet, half double crochet, and a half double crochet. And then the last stitch is going to be a double crochet. And then we have one more toe left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm going to make a single crochet, and then a single crochet, and then a half double crochet, and then another half double crochet. And then final stitch is going to be a double crochet. So that gives me my 4 tails. I'm going to cut a decent length of tail because I'm going to use this tail for sewing. I'm going to use it to tighten up my toes to bring them closer together by sewing along the edge of the toes. And then what's left over on this side is what I'm going to use to actually sew it to the feet. And I'll get more into that when it is time to assemble our piece. But for now, what you need to do is you need to make 4 of these, 1 for each foot. For those of you who are making the tongue, I'm going to go ahead and get the color you're going to use to do that with. I'm using pink. And I'm going to start off by chaining 22 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. Next, in the second chain from the hook, I am going to single crochet. And then I'm going to single crochet just before the last chain. So 1, 2, 3. Once I've
4.
single crocheted 19, I'm going to have 1 chain left. And in that chain, I am going to single crochet 3 in the same stitch. And then I'm going to single crochet 20 single crochets right down the other side of my tongue. Now, once you've finished that, you should have your tongue that looks like this. And then this is when I bring in the darker pink color and I just stitch it right down the center of the tongue to just give it more personality and more definition. And when your tongue is finished, you should have something that looks like this. Now I've gone ahead and stitched that center piece already. As you can see, this is the back end, the part that will be inside the mouth. And then what I've done is I've taken this tail from when I made the tongue and I just wove it right down so that I now have it out, sticking out the front end of my tongue. Now, if you don't plan on using a keychain, but you want the tongue, simply leave your tail at the back end of your tongue. But if you want to have the keychain for your tongue, then go ahead and weave that tail to the front of your tongue, because this is what we're going to use to sew that tongue over the keychain to hold it in place. Now next, we've got the belly of the frog to do. And I didn't start from the beginning because this is basically your standard stacked circle. Those of you who are familiar with Amigurumi, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. Those of you who aren't, I will just walk you through the first 15 rounds of this verbally, and then I'll have the written instructions there on the side here. And you'll get it. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about as soon as you see what it is I'm doing here. So we're going to start off with your standard adjustable ring. And then we're going to move on to the first round, which is going to be 6 single crochets. And you'll end with 6 single crochets. And then for round 2, you're going to want to increase in each stitch. So once you've increased each stitch for round 2, you will end up with 12 stitches total for round 2. For round 3, you're going to follow this pattern 6 times. You're going to single crochet in the first stitch, and then in the next stitch, you're going to increase. Single crochet first stitch, and then next stitch increase. So that single crochet and then increase, you're going to repeat that pattern 6 times, and that'll leave you with 18 stitches. Next, you're going to, for round 4, you're going to do the pattern of 1 increase and then a single crochet 2 times. You're going to repeat that pattern 6 times, and that'll leave you with a total of 24 stitches. For round 5, you're going to follow the pattern of an increase and then single crochet 3 times. You're going to repeat that pattern 6 times, and that'll give you a total of 30 stitches. Next, for round 6, you're going to increase in your first stitch, and then you're going to single crochet in your next 4 stitches. You're going to do that 6 times, and that's going to be 36 stitches for round 6. And then for round 7, you're going to increase, and then you're going to single crochet 5 times, and you're going to repeat that pattern 6 times, and that is going to give you a total of 42 stitches. Then for round 8, you're going to increase, and then you're going to single crochet 6 times, and that is going to be repeated 6 times. Each of these repeats is going to be repeated 6 times. And that will leave round 8 with a total of 48 stitches. Next, for round 9, you're going to repeat the pattern of an increase and then a single crochet 7 times. You're going to repeat that 6 times. So each of these you're going to repeat 6 times, and that's going to give you a total of 54 stitches. For round 10, your pattern is going to be an increase, and then you're going to single crochet 8 times. And when you've completed those repeats, you're going to end up with a total of 60 stitches for that round. For round 11, you're going to follow the pattern of an increase and then single crochet 9. And after repeating that 6 times, you're going to have a total of 66 stitches for that round. For round 12, you're going to increase, and then you're going to single crochet 10 times. And you're going to repeat that 6 times, giving you a total of 72 stitches. For round 13, you're going to follow the pattern of an increase, and then you're going to single crochet 11. You're going to repeat that 6 times, and that's going to give you a total of 78 stitches for round 13. For round 14, you're going to increase. You're going to single crochet 12 times, and that pattern, again, you're going to repeat 6 times, and that's going to leave you with a total of 84 stitches for that round. And then for round 15, you're going to increase in your first stitch, and then you're going to single crochet 13 in each of the next 6 repeats. And that will leave you with a total of 90 stitches. And that's where we are at right now. So now I'm going to move on to round 16, and that's going to be a little different. I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And then I'm going to go ahead and begin this round with 7, or rather a single crochet 7 times. So that'll be my first single crochet. I'm going to replace my stitch marker. And then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. And then I'm going to, in the next stitch, I'm going to make an increase. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pattern, and this pattern I'm going to repeat 5 times. So the pattern is going to be single crochet 14 times and then an increase. And that pattern I will repeat 5 times. And when I've repeated that pattern 5 times, I will tell you what to do next for round 16. So now that you've repeated that pattern 5 times, you're going to have 7 stitches left. And in each of those stitches, I am going to place a single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And that completes round 16. And we have one more round. That's going to be round 17. And for round 17, simply going to place a single crochet in each stitch. So my first stitch, I'm going to replace my stitch marker. I'm going to single crochet in each stitch. And then when I've completed that, I'm going to fasten off. Now, once you've completed the underbelly part of your frog, this is what your piece should look like. And we're going to move on to starting to assemble our pouch. Now, the first thing that I want to do when I assemble this pouch is I get my top green body. Make sure that your stitch markers are as located in the places that I indicated earlier. And then, of course, we are going to crochet with this bit of yarn here, but not yet. So just keep it out of the way. Next, as you can see, how my zipper fit right in between those 2 stitch markers. And so then what I do is I take some stick pins, some regular pins, and I pin my zipper into place. I just want to make sure that the edge of the body of my frog sits right here next to the zipper. Now, the next thing I'm going to do, once I have that all in place, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my thread. I've got a green thread that matches the body of my frog and my needle, and I'm simply going to start hand sewing my zipper on. But what I want to do is I want to sew my zipper on right here in the ditch, or in other words, the space between these last 2 rows right here in this ditch. And this is where I'm going to do the sewing. And I'm going to do, basically all I really need to do is just do a little very tight running stitch. It's super simple. And as you can see, it puts me about halfway between the width of the black ribbon on this side of the zipper. So I will be sewing pretty much halfway down. And then I'm going to do it again with the bottom part of my frog's body. So again, once this piece is done, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing. Now remember, you're going to want to make sure that your zipper stays closed. You don't want to try to do this when your zipper is open. And so what I'm going to do is take my pins and then I'm going to basically attach the bottom part of this in the same exact way. And then I'm going to use a white thread to again sew it on to that ribbon of the zipper right here in the ditch. That space right between the two last rounds. And then once all that's put together, the zipper's sewn on, connecting the top body of the frog to the bottom belly of the frog. Then we can move on to the next step. Now, once you have the two sides sewn on, it should look something like this. We're going to move on to the next step. So it's this time we can actually release this first marker. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to put my hook in there. And then I'm going to let loose the rest of this green yarn because now we're going to get ready to use that. So if yours ended up anything like mine, you're going to see that the diameter of my green is actually smaller than the diameter of my white. And that's exactly what we want. So here I have approximately 30 stitches open on top and then 45 stitches opened on the bottom with my white fabric. And so I'm going to go ahead and crochet these two sides together. But the way I do this is going to be a little tricky for some of you. So pay attention and do our best to get everyone through it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of eyeball where this zipper ended up, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so I'm going to eyeball that on the white. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So just right about here. And this is where I'm just going to kind of tie it in. I'm going to go ahead and tie it in, and then I'm going to go in and make my first single crochet. Now, this next stitch here in the green, I'm going to do the stitch in that, and then I'm going to do the next stitch in the white, and I'm going to do my single crochet. Now, here's where it starts to get a little tricky, and you'll see a pattern as we move along. So I'm going to insert my hook into the same stitch of the green, but I'm going to then insert my hook into the next stitch on the white side of the fabric. So basically on the green, you'll see I have a single crochet and then an increase. But on the white, it'll simply be 3 single crochets. And I'll keep going if that doesn't quite make sense. And that's basically the pattern I'm going to follow. So the next stitch is going to be my green. I'm going to put through the next stitch for the green and then the next stitch for the white and make my single crochet. And then for my next stitch in the green, this is going to be my increase. So I'm going to have my hook go through the green and then into the next stitch of the white. And I'm going to pull that through and I'm going to make my single crochet. Now I'm going to insert my hook in the same green stitch, but I'm then going to insert my hook into the next white stitch. I'm going to pull that through and make another single crochet. And we're going to start the pattern over again. I'm going to
insert my hook into the next green stitch and into the next white stitch and make my single crochet. And then move on to the next stitch where I'm going to do my increase in my green. So I'm going to insert my hook into the green and then into the next white stitch. I make my single crochet, and then I'm going to insert my hook into that same stitch of the green, but I'm going to insert my hook into the next stitch of the white. And then again, I'm going to insert my hook into the next green and into the next stitch of the white and make my single crochet, and then in the next stitch of the green and the next stitch of the white, make my single crochet. I'm going to insert my hook into the same green stitch, but then into the next stitch of the white and make my single crochet. So that is a little tricky. And as we continue around, what it'll do is it'll give us a nice bottom pouch to the bottom side of our piece. And we'll keep working that, and I'll do it a few more times just in case you need a little extra. So into the next green and into the next white. And then my next green is going to be my increase. So into the next green and then into the next white, my single crochet. And then my second single crochet into that same stitch there on the green, but I'm going to insert into the next stitch of the white. So when you look at it, if you're looking at the fabric on the top, it looks like a single crochet plus an increase, a single crochet, then an increase, a single crochet, then an increase. But if you look at it from the white side, from the belly side, you just see a single crochet all the way across. Okay, so we're going to finish this up, and I will meet you right over here when I have completed crocheting the rest of this together. So once I've completed crocheting the top of the body to the bottom of the body, you should have something that looks like this. And your zipper should move freely. And now what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to weave in my tail, and then we're going to do the lips. So now we're going to get started on the lips of the frog. I'm going to use orange. I have my orange right here. And for the lips, I'm basically going to do what's called a reverse single crochet, and also known as a crab stitch. And where I'm going to start is I'm going to come right down here to the left-hand side of the mouth on the white underbelly part. And somewhere here within the first few stitches, it doesn't really matter where, I'm going to find a spot. I'm going to tie in my orange. I'm going to take my extra yarn, and I'm actually going to work that in as I work through, but you may choose to weave it in later. It's really just personal choice. And then what I'm going to do is, so when you do a single crochet, for those of you who don't know, you're going to go from right to left. When you do a reverse single crochet, you're going to go to the right of your work. So I'm going to take my hook, I'm going to insert it into the stitch to the right of my work. I'm going to pull my yarn through. That gives me 2 loops on the hook. I'm going to yarn over, and then I'm going to pull that right on through. And then again, I'm going to take my hook, and I'm going to insert it into the next open stitch to the right of my work. I'm going to pull a loop through. I'm going to yarn over and pull that through, and that gives me my next stitch. And I'm going to continue working just like that until I've completed giving my frog its lips. So I'm basically going to just work all the way around the open edge of my frog's mouth. Now, once you've crocheted your lips all the way around and on, your piece should start looking something like this. So now you definitely have this clam shape going on. There's going to be a couple of things I'm going to do right at this point. So I'm going to take my tongue, and I'm going to sew my tongue on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to fix it
I'm going to decide, you're going to decide where you want to put your tongue. I want to put my tongue right here at about the corner of my frog's mouth, because that's where I think it looks cute. You might have a different idea of that, but I'm going to sew the end of it on. I'm going to tuck it right here and butt it up close to this ribbon here from my zipper. I'm also going to sew on. Now I'm also going to sew on my eye sockets, and I'm going to decide where on the face of my frog I would like to have my eyes sit. And I'm going to sew the base of them on, but I'm going to leave what bit of length of tail I have, because I'm still going to use this to finish sculpting the eyes. And so once I have the tongue sewed on and I have the base of my eye sockets sewn on where I want them to be, then we'll move into the next stage of this, and that is going to be how to finish off the eyes of the frog. Okay, so as you can see at this moment, I have my eye sockets sewn on using the length of tail that we had, and I have not cut or woven my ends in yet because I still need it, as I mentioned before that I would. Next, I put just a little bit of stuffing into the center of each eye socket. So you can see this one without the stuffing, and you can see this one with the stuffing. Now, if you need to, just go ahead and use some of the yarn that you have to kind of quickly stitch that stuffing into place if you think that's going to be a problem for you. Now, this is the time when we're going to add the eyes, the actual eye piece. If you have a safety eye, you might need to use less stuffing and then just put your safety eye right in the center location. If you have a button eye, you might just, again, use maybe about the same amount of stuffing, but then go ahead and sew that button right there in the middle. Basically, the stuffing is going to give a little additional height or backing to your eye. In this case, because my eye is a flat back, I'm going to go ahead, and this is when I take my glue, I'm going to put a little glue there, and I'm going to glue my eye right onto that stuffing. So now I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to place stuffing in the other eye, I'm going to glue my eyes on, and then I'll meet you right back here to show you what I do next once my eyes are in place. So now once your eyes have had a chance to set up, now it's going to be the time to complete your eyeball and give your frog that pop-eyed look. So basically all I'm going to do is, as I tuck in the extra stuffing as I go around, I'm basically going to whip stitch around those single crochet stitches. And then you pull it a little bit, and as you pull it, it starts to cinch that opening around the eye. You can see we're starting to form the frog eye. So now once you've finished with that and you've woven in your ends, your frog's eyes are going to look something like this. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to the legs and the feet. So we're going to start off with the front legs, and as you can see, I have the first one finished. And so I'm going to show you with this second foot. As you can see, where we have this slope in the front of our foot, that's going to be the front foot. And then this is where we're going to actually sew our toes on. So once you determine the placement of your toes, you're going to basically whip stitch them into place, and you're just going to follow a line of single crochets. So you might decide you want your toes down a little lower, you might want them a little higher. I do them about the third row up from the beginning of my piece, and then I just whip stitch them into place. And I just kind of play with it a little bit as I decide how close or how far, how narrow or how wide I want my toes to be placed.
So I'll just start by threading my tail. And then I'm going to get just a little bit of stuffing. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to determine where the front of my foot is, and that's right here. And then I want my toe to start right at the side, at the one side of my foot, and have it reach around to the other side of the foot. So just go ahead and I'll start whip stitching it in place. And then any little tails or anything left over, I'll weave those in when I'm finished. So now that we have our two front feet finished, we're going to go ahead and get our back legs done as well. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly stuff this bulbous front part of the leg. And then I'm going to just put ever so slight a little bit of stuffing in the front long cylindrical part of the leg, because eventually we're going to go ahead and sew it like so. So you need to be able to make that natural bend in the leg for his hind legs. So now I've got just a little, it's not too stuffed. It still has a little bit of play in it, but it's enough that gives it a nice little bit of body. So when I bend the leg, I'm going to have a nice round hind leg, but still be able to bend the bottom part nicely. And then again, I'm going to take a little bit of stuffing. I don't need very much. And I'm not going to stuff all the way to this center part of the leg. I'm just going to stuff a little bit of the front part. So you can see kind of like so. And I think I want just a little more body in that front part of the leg. So I'm going to go ahead and just do a little more stuffing. And then I'm going to close up that front opening right here. And this will then become the front of my back foot. So in order to close the front, I'm just going to, again, kind of whip stitch around each single crochet at the opening and then cinch my foot closed. And then now what I want to do is, so I still got a nice long bit of tail, and that bit of tail I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just go ahead and run down the center of my foot, and I'm going to bring it up right here towards the natural bend. And this is where I'm going to kind of bite into the hind front leg, because what I want to do is I want to just tack this in place so that my foot has its nice little bend. As we start to sculpt it into the position we'd like it to stay in. I'm just going to bring this through the back a little bit, and then I'm going to go ahead and just kind of bring it up to the side. And I'm going to just leave this bit of tail there, because this is the yarn I'm going to continue to use to sew or attach my leg onto the body of my frog. Now, if you've run out of yarn, that's fine. Just cut yourself some more yarn, tie it into place, and then continue as usual. So now once I have that, and I have that kind of just pulled to the side there, I'm going to again get my toes and I'm going to sew them on just the same way as I sewed them onto the front legs. And then when I've finished this leg, I'm going to go and do the same exact thing to the second leg. And when I've finished that, I'm going to show you the placement that I put them onto my frog. So now that I've gotten all 4 legs with the toes on and everything's ready to go, we're going to go ahead and I'm going to show you placement of the legs. So now as far as my front legs are concerned, I'm going to place them right here where the front of the leg just hits about the front of the end of the frog's mouth. I'm going to use my tail and I'm going to sew around just into the layer of the belly. And also I'm going to make sure that the side of my leg here touches the side of the green part of my frog's body so that we have something that looks like this. Okay, so now I have both my front feet sewn on. And you can kind of see how they turn in ever so slightly. They just basically follow the direction of the belly. Now we're going to work on the placement for the back legs. And for the back legs, you're just going to kind of, again, follow the edging of the body. And you're going to want your feet to kind of stay near the edge to follow the line of the front legs. And that's going to put that leg right about there. And then when we do it on the other side, it's going to put the other back leg right there. And if you can see, it's almost a triangular shape. So we're going to have this little bit of the body in the back that's directly down the center of the piece. And then the 2 back legs, we're going to sew those on. And they're basically going to be connected. Once I get to the sewing part, it's going to be connected. I'm going to sew it sort of halfway onto the green top part of the frog, and then certainly some part of the belly right down here along the back bottom part of the belly. And I'm going to sew that on in a way that pretty much binds that back leg right into the position I want it to be in, and where it's not going to move or have too much play. So if you end up doing a little over sewing, if you will, that's going to be perfectly fine as long as your stitches are neat. And it just serves as a way to hold those legs into place solidly and immovably. Sort of like you see with this frog right here. So I have part of the feet sewn onto the belly, as well as the inner thigh and the inner foot sewn onto the belly and the top green part of the body. And again, just as I mentioned before, you have this little bit in the back, and the legs kind of splay out following the line of the frog's body. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that with this frog right here, and I'll be right back to show you what that looks like on mine, and then to discuss the lining, if the lining is something you've decided that you want to go with for your frog pouch as well. So now, if you've made it this far, you have pretty much completed your pouch. However, I would like to have a lining. I like my pouches and purses and such to be lined. And so the lining that I've made for this is very simple. Basically, 2 circular pieces of a fabric that fit the circumference of your pouch. And then I basically decided where the opening of the mouth begins and ends. So that's right here and right here for me. And so the back end I've sewn completely. And then the front end I've just hemmed a little bit. Don't get too crazy. It doesn't have to be like the perfect sewing in the world. Now this I did by hand. If you want to do it with the sewing machine, by all means. And this is what the fabric looks like that I actually used. And this is the fabric that you're going to see on the inside of this pouch. So with your work turned wrong side out, you're simply going to slip it into the frog's mouth, and you're going to line up your edge right here on either side of the edge of your frog's mouth, just on the inside of that zipper. And then you're going to hand stitch your fabric right there into the ribbon of the zipper, just on this inside. Now be careful not to go all the way through. Just catch this ribbon part of your zipper. So I just kind of followed just on the outside of the stitching from where I stitched the zipper onto the frog. I just go ahead and I use a matching color. So in this case, I'm going to use a black thread. And I just stitch my lining right onto the inside of the zipper ribbon, but on the outer side of the last stitching that I used. So right about here is where I'm going to stitch it in. And I'm going to use a basic strong sewing thread with a sewing needle for this one. I'm going to continue to sew all the way through. Now, how I'm going to do this is I'm going to find the center of my opening and then the center of the frog's mouth. And that is where I'm going to begin with a stick pin, because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pin this into place. So after I finish placing my pins where I like my lining to line up at and sew it, I'm going to meet you right back here and show you what my looks like. And once you've sewn your lining in, it should look something like this. And your zipper should function quite nicely. And that's all there is to it. So as you can see, these are fun little wallets or pouches, perfect for any gamer or just anybody who likes frogs and wants a cute little wallet or pouch to carry with them. But now's the time to end this video. I encourage you to check out other videos I may have in this playlist that you might be interested in. And so until we meet again, stay creative, stay amazing, and above all, continue always to weave your own Wyrd. Bye-bye now.